Ah yes, another Daima script. When we first heard about this series, Dragon Ball Daima, it had a slightly more magical name. Although, considering that out of all the things that we have seen so far, the logo part seems the most unfinished. It could very well be the case, like they decided upon this at the last minute and just went Dragon Ball logos and gradients and then a off-the-shelf font. With those rumors, we got one telling us about Shin, how he might be one of the main characters of this project alongside Goku. And after watching the trailer, it very much seems to suggest so. We do see him in quite a few situations, and he seems to be investigating some kind of a ship, which may or may not be the vessel that the main characters are going to use to move around the strange new worlds of Dragon Ball Daima. Kinda like the ship they made to go around Dragon Ball GT's universe. And you might think that we're not being very enthusiastic about this, seeing how often we like to dunk on the character on this channel. Seriously, we were kinder to Garlic Jr. than Shin. I mean, whoever that guy is, I keep hearing about him, but I don't know. But the truth is, we kind of think that putting Shin in Dragon Ball Daima is a good idea. Because if someone that isn't a human character needs a glow up in this franchise, it's most definitely Shin. All the odds were stacked against the poor guy. He and Kibito, though, did have a very effective entrance during the 25th World Martial Arts Tournament, where they both seemed very confident and mysterious, in fact, scaring the living bejeebles out of Piccolo. But they were very quickly proven wrong and not as intimidating. He was not only proven to have some serious lapses in multiversal judgment, but also didn't realize that mortals had surpassed him and the likes of Frieza a good while ago. Frieza was child's play to them, really. And that Goku could just threaten him by just standing there with a keyball. And later on, he was mostly used for simple assistance and the likes of Patara gags, you know? And by the way, it's nice to know that Piccolo and Kami fusing does count as Kami dying, whilst Kibito Kai doesn't count as dying, as Beerus would not be too happy about the results. Fusion's weird. And to connect one of our previous theories about Namekians and Kais, that's one thing that they have culturally in common. In GT, he works as old Kai's lackey, who kind of just took back his role in the story, and getting even more obnoxious. And in Super, he initially does have some promise when he has that little investigation of his into the Goku Black mystery. But it's really not enough given the limelight that he got. It just felt like it didn't go anywhere, which was a shame, as giving him a fight with the present Zamasu would have been very interesting, certainly would have developed his character and given him something to do. For the rest of the saga, he's just one of those background crowd characters, occasionally having some form of interaction with other deities from Universe 7 during the Tournament of Power. I mean, him becoming his own character again. They just turned up Kibito and Shin, unfused, and they're, hey, how did you get here? We could just unfuse with the Dragon Balls. What? The Supreme Kai of our universe that we spend the most time in, he's kinda weak. But honestly, can we really blame him in hindsight? It's not like there was someone around who could have taught him all of these things. The Grand Supreme Kai, who should have been teaching him the tools of the trade, well, he never finished his training because he got gobbled up by a blob genie. And the higher-ups were never really interested in bringing him up to speed. They kind of just left him there to just survive. And that lifelink thing with an angry cat deity that could destroy planets, he barely knew about that. He was just doing his best with what he had, which wasn't a lot. But it's no wonder that he considered Frieza a big power scaling staple, because that's the only thing he actually knew wholesale. No matter which way you look at it, King Cold and his son seized up a very big section of the galaxy. Shin probably had enough tools to be able to keep an eye on what was going on in the universe, and maybe realized that maybe I shouldn't interfere with that. He's only meant to observe, so he's really not meant to get involved anyway, but he just thought, I'm just going to ignore that. And considering Goasu's reaction to the Barbary, you know what kind of mentality the Kais have about dealing with such things. I do wonder though, if Cell would get his attention had he won, because Cell, much stronger than Shin, that would have required further assistance. At least the one in Future Trunks' timeline was kind of badass. Shin, well, mostly because Goku had never broken this one in terms of spirit, I mean, broken like a Z-sword. Sorry, that was a little bit heavy-handed of me. You would think that after all this time spent with those powerful beings, someone would offer the poor guy some kind of help to get back in shape instead of just the Elder Kai shouting at him all the time for not knowing things. How is he supposed to know if he's just gonna get lambasted? But anyway, after all the time he spent with mortals, Goku could maybe offer him some kind of sparring so he could defend himself. I don't think he quite understands that he has shattered the guy's confidence. He's just there, he's meek, he's feeble. Goku doesn't care. And if not him, it should be in Beerus's best interest to bring this life-linked body up to his level, or at least a higher level, because this is a very big Achilles heel for him. If any of Beerus's enemies knew about the connection he has with Shin, and Shin is so weak, they could just pop Shin off and get rid of Beerus. Think about it. Some scientists on Earth can build artificial beings that are more powerful than the Supreme Kai of Universe 7. That's crazy! Just Android 16, boom! Technically, even Android 13 with his trucker hat would have been enough. And not only that, but Shin is one of those unfortunate characters that are present in the story all of the time, but are never given the chance to do anything meaningful. They just exist. Kind of like Tarbell in the second half of the Yo Son Goku and his friends return special. Now, what can Dragon Ball Daima do about that? Well, given how limited we are in information, it's hard to say at this time. We're not quite sure about the main hook yet, as there is definitely something more going on behind the whole baby spell, and we don't think that this has anything to do with the wish made on Shenron. If anything, they'll find out that maybe Shenron cannot fix them. Have you thought about that maybe? Things might not be connected in the same way, so sure, we see a shot of Shin rising from the Dragon Balls doesn't necessarily mean that that was the wish that made everyone into children. This could have been a whole other spell, and as I just said, they could have raised up Shenron and then realized,
I can't do anything about it. Sorry, kiddos.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of GT baiting in whoever edited that trailer. And according to the reaction of the Western audiences, oh, it worked. Oh, everyone's talking about it and getting very angry. Oh, we got played. We got played like chumps. Aside from that, the possible demonic connections could intrigue and affect Shin enough for him to be willing to investigate and do something meaningful. Now, it is interesting what his relationship with Goku is going to be. Now they're in a similar position in pickle. I am unsure if modern Dragon Ball will in any shape or form acknowledge the former hostility between the Saiyan and the Supreme Kai during the Buu saga, as he was one of the very few characters going in that particular part of the story that he chose to defy. It is interesting though, isn't it? Goku, he's usually very polite, friendly, respectful to anyone who's a sage and wise character, especially the divine ones. Yet Shin was the only one who got to experience him at his most tempestuous side, the bad side of Goku. One of the very few characters who had to deal with that directly, if we're being real. We would love for this to be addressed, even if they just both apologized at some point about what happened during the Buu saga. But this moment was kind of forgettable, and you can see the impact of Goku threatening him has very much shattered his ego. After then, he really didn't do much. It would be a good little addition for Daima, you know, for both of them, to bring some closure, for the Saiyan to help him regain some confidence. Maybe we will learn the reason why he became so stagnant after that incident. Maybe he feels redundant now with the Saiyan being so powerful. Also worth noting is that if Daima is not its own timeline, we have to be at least after Goku's first fight with Beerus, and Shin is a living example of why. Kibito Kai diffused during the Saiyan's battle with the cat in the manga, or right after Resurrection F in the anime. I'm curious if Kibito tags along with this journey as well, and he also feels like an underused character, and allegedly, we haven't seen the entire main crew yet, which is a curious choice to say the least. Now, Shin has been slightly ignorant, mostly for no fault of his own, but still, it's something they really could address in this little project and expand upon in Daima. At one point, he was very wise and knowledgeable, only to not know how his own earrings worked. It's good that Elder Kai was there to tell him about it, otherwise it could have been very awkward later in his life cycle. But regardless, he did know about Dabura and his involvement in the demon realm, so he must have some knowledge and nous. Okay, if the structure that we have seen in this trailer is indeed the demon realm, then he can actually have some expertise. Probably the enemy that he faced before. something that he can expand upon his original research into Deborah and Majin Buu. And there appears to be some interest in barbarity with these new characters, as there is a very heavy focus on the imp, following the events that led to the wizard's downfall. I wouldn't be surprised if everything we thought we knew from Heroes and the games about the demon realm will change dramatically from this project. I don't expect to see any familiar faces though, no Meki Kabura maybe. Again, Dragon Ball was never really about canon. It's us, the Westerners, that are treating this very seriously. But we may say that certain events are more relevant than others. And if Daima has a demon realm in it, you can bet it's going to be, well, more canon than we've seen in the Heroes continuity, because Toriyama's directly involved. And, you know, Shin being the resident expert on the demons in the crew would be really interesting. That could be his new role. This boy deserves to show that he still has some good knowledge, that without him, they would be clueless about how the demon realm worked. His lapses in lore are not the result of laziness or bad will, but rather the fact that there was no one there to teach him. The one thing he does know, he's not really been able to exploit since the Buu saga. Maybe we can see some flashbacks from his time with the Grand Supreme Kai from millions of years ago, so we can learn about their mentor-student relationship, because the addition of the Grand Supreme Kai in the Moro arc was very greatly received. Gave us a lot of exposition about Oob and Boo. This could be really fun and quite fruitful for learning about more of the character. Also, we have that mysterious Kai-like attendant to the imp that we don't know much about, who might be identifying as she, as the later parts of the trailer seem to allude to. So, we might see some baddies fuse as well if they have access to Potara, which if it's a Kai, will most definitely have, or even
Evil Potara!
Well, I mean, we've had evil Potara before, but those were technically evil, formerly good Potara. Those would be the first proper
Evil Potara!
Also, talking about the imp's actions, the childification spell, which we assume is going to be the case, has proven to us that Kais do grow and learn, as we alluded to in the trailer breakdown. I mean, they certainly age. We don't imagine that Goasu came out of the fruit all this wrinkly. Sorry, mate. But what if they don't? What if they are born as fully formed adults and that's just what they look like? And this is the first time Kibito and Shin experience childhood. This childification spell could just be a generic one, not making them younger, but just making them children. That's why Roshi looks so weird. There could be another layer for these characters to explore, and the proof that the whole fruit birth thing with the Kais is something that might have been forced upon them rather than their natural life just going about its cycle. And if Super was about destroyers, this might be about Supreme Kais, the gods of life. And if Zalama is involved, then maybe in the end Shin will get some answers about his plight. Some of them he might not like. I don't know if the series will go that deep, but man, we are circling a lot of stuff that might relate to the missing god. And honestly, it feels almost too convenient. Like Toriyama is deliberately trying to fix some of the plot holes. Shin might also learn that he is more important than he thought. Maybe he will learn about the original intent behind the Kais. I mean, they do have the hardest job, education, if you think about it, as they have to learn stuff from their predecessors. And if their predecessors aren't around, then lessons would be very long and slow, especially Thursdays where they have double nothing. The Angels are fine, they've got their Big Daddy GP. The GODs just destroy stuff, that's not exactly hard, and Zeno is very good at that too. And besides, to anyone who has ever built anything from Lego, which Philly and I love to do, you know that, even accidentally, smashing the whole thing is easier than building it. So hey, this might be a route of self-discovery for him. I mean, we do hope he'll be important in the story. I mean, they've been alluding to that. If they just bait and switch us, that would be very annoying. And there is always a threat that he will get the GT Pan and Trunks treatment, and he'll be just going along for the ride. But admittedly, Toriyama's direct involvement in this does give me hope that he needed Shin for something, and that he is going to be utilized. He could easily work as the straight guy to Goku's buffoonery. So yeah, we're very excited to see the Supreme Kai actually doing stuff. Even if he has adorable little legs now, and his coloration doesn't seem to resemble his original anime or manga color pattern, for that matter. We do hope that Daima will use more of the characters. But on the large list of individuals that would benefit from some love, Shin is definitely up there. He didn't live up to his full potential in the introductory saga. We kind of skipped over his fused involvement in GT, and we are sad about the missed opportunities he could have had in Super. But now, he can make a difference, and end the meme of him being somewhat useless. Please make it happen, Daima, and don't make this another fat Gotenks joke.